Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
All right, it is Friday. Did someone get a speeding ticket or something? Did I miss something?
No.
No comment. Okay, good.
Nobody got a ticket.
Oh, good. We had a damn close call, though, didn't we?
We did have a damn close call.
3 close calls.
I texted Mikey this morning. I'm like, hey, I had a call a little bit late. He wanted us here at 10:30. I'm like, I'll be here at like 10:40. So, and I have the Apple Maps playing for the radar.
Right.
And it said speed check ahead. So I slowed down, passed the wonderful officer.
Gave him a tip of the cap.
Sped up a little bit. There's a second one up there. They checked me.
They were setting you up.
They were setting me up. They knew I was coming.
But you got away.
I got away. So I pulled over before he even hit his lights. I was in the berm. And he came up and he said, I pulled you over. I said, yeah, I was in the berm before you hit your lights. I knew you were coming. And I said, just tell me, did it start with a 9?
No.
He said, no, 86. So,
Did he write you or let you go?
No, he let me go because my brother, I had a FOP card for my brother. So
wow, my goodness.
Both said if I was black, I'd be in jail.
Did it start with a 9? That's a good answer.
Yeah.
A tip that a state trooper gave me many, many years ago that's gotten me out of a number of tickets.
Yeah.
Don't reach for your glove box. Worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
They don't know what you're going for.
Right.
And put both hands at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
That is a nonverbal cue to the police officer that you're aware of the danger that his job entails.
This is
and
a
that
safe
you respect
space.
him.
This is a safe space.
Go right here.
Yeah.
They love to be able to see your hands when they're coming up on the car.
Yeah, well, Jason's lucky today.
Yeah, he is living on the right side.
I would like to say he'll learn his lesson, but I know better.
Don't go there, Bull.
I think I have 2 FOP cards.
Because on the morning conference call 10 minutes later, we heard a terrible, terrible curse word.
Yeah.
And we all immediately said, not again. He thought he was going to get pulled over again.
I thought I was going to get pulled over twice.
This is from the guy who watched an entire Netflix series while driving to West Virginia. Because the roads between here and West Virginia are poker straight.
I mean, it's 5 hours.
At night, I think, too.
It's 5 hours. What else am I supposed to do?
Do we need to enroll you in a safe driving class?
I have ADD. Like, I got to have something to do besides just sit here like this.
How many points do you currently have?
0.
Oh, good for you.
0.
You're a lucky
He's got a lot of
fella.
friends in high places.
Yes, he does. He's got a big,
I feel like
he's got a very important card.
Jason's like an addict, but not of gambling, drugs, or maybe those things too. I don't know.
Speed.
But like he's a
Adrenaline junkie.
Listen,
adrenaline junkie. There
Guilty
you go.
as charged as well.
Yeah.
I have a lead foot, and I've been very lucky in
Have
my
you ever
time.
done over 100 miles an hour?
Oh, many times. Yes, I've done over 100 miles
Yesterday.
an hour this week.
Oh my God!
Busy show. Tim Couch coming up at 11:20. We're going to talk about. We have asked on this show a number of times. What is it about Kevin Stefanski with the Cincinnati Bengals, but he struggles mightily against everyone else? Maybe I found some numbers. Maybe I've stumbled into the answer on that.
Well, I don't know about everybody else.
Well, he's 6 games under 500 against everybody else.
Okay, but
he's 5 games over 500. It might be 8 games under 500. What's his total record right now?
We could pull it up. I think it's 29-27.
Okay.
No.
I think he's right around 500. He's a
Right.
few
He is
over
right around 500.
But there's other
he's 5
teams he has a
games
good
over
record.
500 against the Bengals.
25-27 officially.
25 and 27?
27-25.
Okay.
27-25.
So he's 2 games under 500 against everybody. But against the Bengals, he's 5 games over 500, which means if you take the Bengals out of the mix, he's 3 games under 500.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's bad against everybody. That's not
No, but I have found a trend against the teams he's particularly bad against. And we'll give you those numbers, and you can decide if this is just, as Bull loves to say, it's not a big sample size. It's not enough. It might be. He might be right in this case. Browns' run defense against Derrick Henry. Browns' run defense has been great. Derrick Henry, normally great. His numbers this year aren't eye-popping. He's averaging 73 yards
He got
a
off to
game.
a slow start last year, and I thought he was done.
I think we buried him on this show, actually, and
I
said
did.
that he's
I
lost a
definitely
step.
did.
I remember we
definitely
all did. Also, it's Friday. That means you get 90 minutes today. And then at 12:30, you're going to have to drop the stream and jump over to WKYC Channel 3 here in Cleveland. By the way, I heard from some folks last week that said, I'm not in the Cleveland market. I can't watch it. You can. Go to WKYC.com, and they stream live all of our locally produced programs while they are on the air, so you can watch it that way. That is the last half hour today.
It was very cool this morning when I went on my TV, the guide on the TV.
Yeah.
And saw UCSS on WKYC.
Oh, did you?
To DVR it for today.
Very nice.
So that was fun because I hadn't seen that before. Although I'm getting rid of my DirecTV. I'm getting rid of at the end of the
Are you really?
After like 15 years.
Because you're now on the streaming package.
I got YouTube
for YouTube TV.
Although I don't know what I'm going to do once baseball season comes around next year. I'll have to figure it out.
DirecTV, you might want to. You already did it. It's too late. DirecTV did something very savvy, I thought. They are offering $400 gift cards.
I know.
If you sign up with DirecTV, and then that will pay your bill for your NFL.
They offered that to me when I was canceling.
That's a pretty good.
Yeah, but I'm still. Eventually, I'm going to lose money on it. But
I don't know what you're going to do with baseball.
I'll have to bring it. I'll have to figure it out in April. Hopefully, they'll figure out this Bally's app so I can actually watch the Guardians game on
That's
that.
a nightmare. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Ridiculous.
Okay,
Anyway.
busy show. Let's say our first hello of the day to Mikey McNuggets behind the glass. Hi, Mike.
We are doing good today, guys. It is Friday, TV show number 2. We are thrilled. Before we get into our topics today, I just have to remind everybody that if you need healthcare emergency pills, you can call JaceMedical.com. Head over to JaceMedical.com, JaseMedical.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON. It gets you $360 off, plus an additional $20. I'm no mathematician. That's $380 off if you use promo code LOCKEDON at JaceMedical.com. Go to the website, find all the information. I abbreviated that read, and that's how we're going to start.
Mikey,
JASE.com.
Mikey
right?
asked if you
Jace.com.
need health insurance, like he was talking about a can of Coke.
Yeah, right.
It's
kind of a vital thing in today's society.
Yeah, there you go.
It is.
And so check them out. Check them out.
Just check them out.
Jace.com.
You can learn everything you need to know on JaceMedical.com.
Yep.
Trust me.
There you go. All right. Busy day. Busy day. This is our last show before the actual next game against the Titans on Sunday. I mentioned that Kevin Stefanski has struggled against physical teams, and we're going to come back to that later. But one of the things before we get to that really troubled me yesterday, and I want to see what you guys thought about it. We played the clip yesterday from Deshaun Watson. Basically, I'll paraphrase.
We have it again.
We have a communication issue. I thought it was really hard to hear.
You got a better version?
We got a better clip.
Okay, if you got a better clip, let's play it. This is Deshaun Watson kind of explaining the troubles of the offense so far this year.
What do you identify as maybe the biggest issue for you?
For myself, it's just being on the same page with everybody else. Well, you got to think. We had some injuries, so, we had a rookie tackle that came in, so we got to change up a little bit of the protection-wise. Nick went out early on, so, some young running backs that got to come in protection-wise. And then some of the receivers, Coop, he was a guy that came along during camp. He didn't get too many reps. Elijah is new to the system with live bullets, so we didn't get too many live bullets in real games. You can't sit here and say, practice is going to be exactly the games. It's two different speeds and two different things that's, adjustable.
What have you identified?
So a couple of things that I'd say to that, guys. First of all, if it was so important to get more time, why did he demand to Kevin Stefanski that he play more in the preseason?
Yeah.
If that was so important. And why did we not hear about any of this lack of chemistry or lack of being on the same page when they beat Cincinnati by 3 touchdowns? All of a sudden, now listen, we want guys to be honest in press conferences, so I hate to rip a guy when he gives what he looks at as an honest answer, but it sounded to me like a lot of excuses.
I counted 5 of them in there.
They beat the Bengals by 3 touchdowns, but I think we all agree that the offense looked pretty disjointed.
Well, the passing game, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
So that part aligns. I made the argument in July that Deshaun Watson should play more this preseason for exactly this reason. Because of the long layoff, everything else, knock the rust off, whatever you want, the importance of the season, the importance of getting off to a good start, knowing that you had 3 divisional games. So if you want to look at who to point the finger to, I point the finger at Kevin Stefanski for not playing him more in the preseason, and also the fact that, this was a longer than usual training camp. There's really no excuse for this.
Sure, you had the extra week.
You had the extra week there in West Virginia.
And the extra preseason game.
There was plenty of time for this. So I do think that he should have played more in the preseason. I know I said I didn't like Denzel Ward playing, and that's true. I don't like that because it's different factors. Look at Denzel's injury history. What are you going to gain from him playing in that meaningless game against the Chiefs as opposed to your quarterback with these new offensive weapons. I said at the time I thought he should have been playing more in the preseason, and I stand by that, and now you're kind of seeing it. But we talk about this every year, that with the teams that don't play a lot in the preseason, they look a little disjointed, and they struggle in the early weeks of the season, and that's playing out right now in real time.
You said yesterday that his soundbite sounded a lot like the narrative of the account that some are saying is a burner account, but there's no proof that it is. But you're right, it does. It sounds a lot like it. He's pointing a lot of fingers. Injury. Offensive line is relatively inexperienced, particularly at right tackle. The Elijah Moore comment, the Coop comment. Like, these are all excuses that are piled up on top of one another, and that's a bad look.
Every team has bumps and bruises and dings and guys coming in and out. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's in training camps and any other time of the year.
Well,
Everybody
look at Cincinnati. I mean, they haven't had their quarterback in the preseason.
And you could see the results.
You can see the results. They show. And to your point, that might, in fact, be true. The reason it didn't show itself against Cincinnati, I wouldn't give the offense anything but a C- against Cincinnati.
Right.
They were relatively ineffective. They did enough to win the football game, but I think it's clear they won on the strength of their defense.
What's amazing, by the way, guys, is I was looking to see if Deshaun Watson took significantly less snaps or threw significantly less passes than any other veteran quarterback in the league, and he really didn't. No, he threw 13 passes in the preseason.
Yeah.
No veteran starting quarterback threw more than 17 passes in the preseason.
Well, but
however, he's
different.
has played a lot less than those
That's
guys.
exactly right, and that's where I was going.
Yeah, guys like Sam Howell, who hasn't played a lot, the rookie quarterbacks, or Jordan Love, those guys took a lot more snaps.
Well, look how they played DeJuan Jones. They wanted to see what they had. And they put him out there for the preseason as if they were 4 regular season games.
It's a good thing they did.
It's a very good thing they did.
Imagine where they'd be.
Imagine, and maybe there was some, when the Conklin signing happened, we all were like, wait a minute, is that a joke?
Yeah.
Is that real? He's injury prone. He's older in his career, and maybe the Browns, I'm not saying it was foreshadowing, but they did want to know, what did we have at this kid?
Yes.
We know we've got a huge chunk of clay, but what can we turn it into? And I'm glad they did play him a lot. I was critical of the way the Browns used Deshaun Watson in the preseason. I stand by that criticism. It wasn't enough. 13 passes in the preseason, and now he's going to say, we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Why are you not on the same page? Because you had 13 reps in the preseason.
Yeah.
And I don't care typically what other teams are doing with their starters. Well, Belichick didn't. Andy Reid this year. I don't care. No one has a situation like the Browns. The Browns situation was very unique.
Well,
they have a franchise quarterback that had so much rust on him last year, he looked unrecognizable.
I'd say if I stretch it, the only comparison I could make would be Jordan Love, who's been in the league a while but hasn't played.
Sure.
And he threw, I think, 3 times the passes that Deshaun Watson. They used him a lot.
And that was appropriate.
Because they were like, we need to get him up to speed.
And you know what? I would have looked at Deshaun Watson as the same way. Last year, everybody said, well, he hasn't played in 2 years. What'd you expect? Okay, if that's true, let's get him as many reps as we possibly can. So in week 2, we don't hear, we are not on the same page.
Right.
We have, and to your point, you blame Stefanski. I don't know that that's true. Has Stefanski said anything about there being communication issues? And I know he doesn't tell us much.
No. Yeah, he's not going to say that.
Well, Alex Van Pelt said he wasn't buying it. He talked yesterday.
Good, because I didn't hear either man speak. I want to know, is anybody else saying that this is an issue?
Joe Bitonio did double down on it, and we actually have Bitonio's comments. Mike, if you want to take tag board full, Anthony, you could hit play when you're ready. This is Joe Bitonio.
It's part of the process of getting the right offense out there. You lose a guy like Jack, who's very good at communicating, really understands his job. You bring a rookie in who's fighting his butt off and doing everything he can and learning the playbook, but Jack brings 8 years of experience, the position. So that's one guy. And then you see Nick go down, and I think last game there was just a little bit of, we panicked a little bit. You throw a pick early, and you press on the gate. At one point, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, we're winning this game, and it feels like we're not. You know what I mean? And so there was just a little bit of panic, and I think we learned from that. I think everybody comes in and takes a deep breath and realizes, like, hey, our defense is playing really well right now. Like, gives us a chance on offense to figure out what we need to figure out and do what we need to do.
I'd love to know how the question to him was phrased, and know this. There's a difference. Was the question phrased, hey, how's the communication been this year? Or was it phrased, Deshaun just said communication's been a problem?
Knowing that room as well as I do,
That's the way it was phrased.
That's the way it was phrased.
That's my assumption, too, because you know as well as I do, reporters love to listen to the other team's comments and then run into the locker room and say, hey, Jamar Chase just said, you know, and it's baiting a little bit.
But in this case, it's not baiting. It's saying, like,
no,
hey,
you're asking him to confirm something, but
saying,
the way I would do that as a reporter, don't ask him to confirm your leader's comments. He's not going to roll on the leader and say, what's he talking about? Communication.
Just ask him
without telling him the answer. Say, what's the communication been like between coach to quarterback, quarterback to players? Now you're going to get an honest assessment of what he thinks.
True, although Bitonio could argue that the reporters put him in a tricky spot, not telling him the Watson thing.
That's right.
And maybe he inadvertently makes Watson look bad if he didn't know.
Yeah, but
I think you're right. That's the best way to get the honest answer.
But Bitonio doesn't know what Deshaun has said.
Right. That's true.
Instead of giving him a peek at what Deshaun's answer was, instead just ask about the issue in a vacuum and see what his answer is.
And this is also why I think these are a waste of time. Like a lot of the podium stuff is a total waste of time. I don't even mess with it anymore. But and the whole communication thing, it sounds like a big blanket. What does that mean?
Yeah, I know. It's all encompassing. Well, you can put that under the...
I did think one of the most interesting things Joe Bitonio said was, he said twice that it felt like panic set in when Nick Chubb got hurt.
I was surprised by that, too, because they were winning.
The pick six. Did he say...
No, he said after the pick six.
The pick six.
Not after the... And they were winning 11-7 at one point. I mean, that panic should have been...
winning in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, why are you panicking?
Well, being in that stadium, it didn't feel like they were leading.
It didn't.
No, but I know maybe it didn't.
But they should have felt that way.
But, well, clearly they didn't. He just told you. They felt the same way they felt in the press
maybe
box.
it didn't feel like that on the scoreboard, but to me, as I was watching the game, I'm like, they are in complete control of this game.
Boy, I didn't feel that way.
I mean, they were moving the ball. Pittsburgh was not. I'm just judging it on what you can't win if you can't score, unless you give the ball away.
Yeah, Pittsburgh had the one home run play to Pickens. That was it.
That was half of their offensive production for the night.
And Zach Jackson and I kept saying, like, Steelers love having their defense on the field. They don't mind punting here. Put the defense back on the field. The defense is having more success than the offense.
They had the one big play on offense and 2 defensive touchdowns.
And that's all they needed.
Yeah.
And in most cases, that's going to do it.
Here's the situation right now, okay? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, that a lot of people, myself included, to some degree, gave Deshaun Watson a pass for last year. And a lot of people, myself included, less included than the first group, gave Deshaun Watson a pass for the Bengal game. After this game, it changed. There were a lot of Deshaun Watson homers that started to say, what's going on? He's not playing well. If he has a bad game this week, that group is going over the top. It's going to become the majority of Browns fans are going over the top, because you have perfect conditions this Sunday. You're at home. You're playing one of the worst pass defenses in the league. The weather is supposed to be perfect, 70 degrees and partly sunny. There is no excuse whatsoever for Deshaun Watson to not to have a good game. And if he does it again, which would make it 9, with Baltimore by San Francisco, there will be, I guess if they win, it won't be full-blown panic because you'll still be 2-1. But if he plays poorly and they lose, it's going to be insane.
I agree with you. The tide will turn in a hurt. Right now, it's kind of a mix. We're hearing from his critics and his supporters.
It's all going over the top.
Coming into the season, it was 80% of his supporters, 20% of the critics. This is how the worm turned on Baker. Once upon a time, he had the whole fan base. And in very short order, it went from kind of a 50-50 split, and then all of a sudden, everybody says, this guy can't play, we got to get rid of him. It happens fast.
The stadium will be full of booze if he does not play well
if he does not play, he's going to get the booze.
It won't be pretty. Okay, we're bringing on Tim Couch in 45 seconds, right?
Yes, sir.
Before we do, quickly, can this be fixed? If it is a communication issue, how do you fix it?
Time, reps. Like, that's how you fix it. It's
just shouldn't it have been enough time by now?
Yes.
I mean, this is crazy.
We just said that. It was a longer extended preseason.
What percent is Stefanski? What percent is Watson?
I mean, now it's Deshaun. He's the one on the field. Before it was Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 50-50 overall.
Yeah, in terms of setting up the structure and snaps and all that in the preseason, that's all Kevin. But now it's Deshaun.
Yeah.
He's the one with the ball in his hands. He's the one on the field.
I was interested. The one part of that you said, and we played the part yesterday, but not in this piece, we said, well, we don't know if we're going for it on third down or what are we doing? Are we going for it on fourth down? I was surprised to hear him say that.
I didn't hear that part.
I didn't hear
Yeah,
that
that was in the bite you played yesterday. It was also on the bite we played yesterday on
Yeah, it
Channel
was just
3.
tough
It's really hard to
hear through tag
It's
board, so
really
we
hard
decided
to hear.
we'd
And
play
not
the
just
clear
tag board.
one.
When we played it on Channel 3 last night, I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't hear that.
There's got to be a better way to get audio from scrums in the locker room.
Well, it is tough.
It's a
Most of these guys are
long-term issue.
using phones, and that's
Yeah.
I don't want to hear
horrible
the
audio.
excuse of the right tackle injury. Injury's a part of the game. The
Yeah,
Nick
they
Chubb
happen.
injury, and that's and in terms of he played well outside of Elijah Moore and the rookie, what's his name?
Tillman.
Cedric Tillman,
Tillman.
who's not played much.
No.
He played with all these guys last year. Give me, come on. It shouldn't be so foreign to him.
You have a read before we bring in Tim?
Real quick, just remind everybody that at 12:30 we are leaving YouTube, going to WKYC. We are back on TV. It's 30 minutes, brand new, never before seen content, previewing today Sunday's Browns versus Titans game. So make sure you flip the channel to Channel 3. Check us out on WKYC. I promise you'll have a good time. And with that, we bring in our QB1, the former #1 overall pick. It is the one, the only, Mr. Tim Couch. What's up, Tim?
What's up, guys? How we doing today?
We're doing great. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you are still the last Browns quarterback to leave Pittsburgh with a regular season win. I mean,
Man, I'm not proud of it. I wish they could get a win.
at some point we got to put a statue of Tim Couch up. It's nuts, Tim. I don't know if you heard, but yesterday Deshaun sort of used communication as sort of a blanket excuse for what's going on. You've played the position. You know the importance of communication. You're also watching everything like we are. Do you buy that it's communication?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of the communication. I don't know why they're not on the same page at this point. You have an entire offseason. You have preseason games. Those guys should be on the same page. I do understand you have a new right tackle in. You have some young guys coming in the backfield. Pass protection can get a little messed up at time in communications. But, guys should be on the same page. At this point, you have all week long to get ready for these game plans. You have walkthroughs. You have practices. You're sitting in meeting rooms all day. The communication should be there at this point in the season. So hopefully that gets cleaned up going into this next game because, that excuse is not going to last much longer. The fans are probably already over here or tired of hearing that one, just after one game of using that excuse. So they got to get that cleaned up and get everyone on the same page.
Tim, I have a dumb question. What does that mean? What does communication mean? That just seems like a really blanket, vague term. What does it mean?
I think for the most part, they're talking about protections. They're talking about, if we're sliding the line this way, who does the back have now? Deciding who they're making the, the mic and the 4-down guys. Just communication of, the linemen and the running backs and the quarterback all getting on the same page, and also the receivers and the side adjustments, the hot routes, those kind of things if they bring blitzes. So there's communication on that end. They're also talking about, communication in the passing game. Are you getting to the right depth in your route? Are you seeing the same covers that the quarterback is seeing? If you have a route on and it's got an adjustment to it based on if it's cover 2 or middle field's closed, where there's cover 1 or cover 3, the quarterback and the receiver have to be seeing the same coverages and adjust those routes accordingly. So that's what they're talking about when they mention communication. So, but like I said, I think at this point in the season, a couple games under your belt, an entire offseason, guys should really be on the same page right now.
Tim, Deshaun Watson in his time in Houston played great, right? In his 3 full years, he went to the playoffs twice. His last year there, they didn't win a lot of games, but he played well. He had nothing around him. We almost never saw him have a bad game in Houston. Since coming to Cleveland, he's played 8 games. They've all been bad. I don't even think any of them have been average. At best, they've been 1 or 2 have been average. How do we explain this? He's not old. He's had injuries in the past, but not recently. Is it all mental? I mean, how does a quarterback go from being that good? He had the time off, but it seems like it should be enough time that we should see, especially with the talent around him, be better. Are you nervous that it's not going to happen? And how do you explain why he can't seem to play well?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that would jump out at me is just a change of systems. I think a quarterback can feel very comfortable in one system that he was in Houston, and you come here and it's a completely different system. So there is that adjustment period and the fact that he was out of football for a couple of years. But, like you said, man, it's, he really hasn't shown a whole lot. I think, when he was in Houston, he was considered probably a top 5 or 10 quarterback in the league. Now he's probably considered, after his last, 8 or 9 games, probably the bottom half of the league, probably the bottom 5 guys of the league right now statistically. So it's disheartening. I think I'm not ready to press the panic button yet because I've seen guys start off slow like this and then really turn it around and have great seasons. But you really do need to start seeing some things out of Deshaun. For me, when I watch him play, I don't see the ability to extend plays and create those big plays outside of the pocket that he was doing in Houston. Right now he's taking a lot of sacks. He's holding on to the football. It just doesn't look like the same player. He was throwing the football down the field, really pushing it down the field, being aggressive in Houston. Now he's kind of dinking and dunking and being very conservative with his throws. And so it looks like a different player. And maybe that has something to do with he's not comfortable yet. But like I said earlier, at this point, guys should be firing and hitting on all cylinders, and this offense should be clicking.
Yeah, your point that he's probably in the bottom half, and then you kind of clarified that and said, in fact, statistically, he's in the bottom 5. He is. Yeah. His QBR since he came back, if you put all quarterbacks into that mix over the last 8 games, he's 28th or 29th in QBR. So this isn't like he's average and we need to get him into the elite category. This is he's been horrible. And at this point, we're just talking about, can we get him to average? If we can get him to average with this defense, you might have something. Someone brought up on the show, I think it was Bull, someone brought up on the show something earlier this week that I really want to ask you about. They said that perhaps this is all mental, and then they made the comparison to Tiger Woods, how Tiger Woods was absolutely elite in his career. He had rewritten the entire golf record book. It looked like he wasn't going to just catch Jack on the number of majors. He was going to destroy that. And then he came his personal tragedy, the very public divorce and everything that led up to the car crash and him cheating on his wife. He had to face the media. And someone had said he was never the same after that. Do you see any similarities? I know you follow golf. I know you know Tiger's career trajectory well. Is that possible, what we're seeing here, and that he'll never shake this baggage and this is who he is?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think as an athlete, especially someone like Deshaun, who was so beloved when he was at Clemson, all the fans are cheering for him. Everybody thinks he's such a great player and a great person. And then you have an off-the-field scandal like this and your character comes into question. I think that really breaks an athlete down mentally. And, you can come back, he's physically healthy now, but is he mentally healthy? Does he still believe in himself? Does he still hear the whispers in the crowd, especially on the road games, when people are saying who knows what to him? Every time he comes out of the locker room through those tunnels, it's untelling, what he hears from opposing fans. So, I know that he tries to block all that out, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. He hears that stuff. It has to get to him a little bit. Hopefully he's working with somebody on the mental side of things and just talking things through because he dealt with a lot, and rightfully so. He put himself in a bad situation. So he's going to hear everything from the fans, all the bad stuff. So hopefully it is very similar to what Tiger went through, So Tiger came back, and other than the injuries, he came back and ended up winning another Masters after that. So hopefully we can see Deshaun, come back and be the type of player that he was in Houston because, we all want to see him get to that level, and it's just not there yet.
Tim, when you're a quarterback and you're not playing well, do you feel the need to go to your teammates, to go to your linemen, skill guys, whatever, and say, like, don't lose faith in me, we're going to figure this out? Or is that sort of understood? I guess I'm just wondering, as a quarterback, how do you handle that in the locker room? And are there signs we should be looking for that guys lose faith in them?
Yeah, I think there is some of that goes on, within the locker room. I don't think it's, one of those things where you stand up in a meeting or anything like that. It's just kind of going around in practice and talking to guys and, encouraging them, and let them know that you're still believing yourself. The last thing you want to do is kind of walk around with bad body language and see the guy and let the guys see you, doubting yourself and that you have, starting to question your own ability. So it's about the attitude. It's about being positive within the locker room with your teammates when you talk to them. Let them know that, show them that you're working hard. Let them see you in the building, in the weight room, in the film room, that you're trying to get this thing right, that you're doing everything humanly possible that you can do as a quarterback to get this thing going in the right direction. And that's what guys want to see. That's what they respond to. And, like I said, on the practice field, encouraging guys, we're going to get this thing right. If there's mistakes on the practice field, let's get them cleaned up so we don't carry those over, onto Sundays out on the game field. So, that's how I would handle it as a quarterback. I certainly went through those struggles and, getting a lot of heat from the media and the fans. And I just wanted to make sure that me and my teammates were always on the same page, and they understood that I was in this thing with them, and that I still believed in myself and thought I was the guy that was going to be capable of going out and winning games for that franchise.
Tim, Joel Bitonio, we just played the clip a little bit ago. He said that he felt like after that initial pick, there was some panic from the Browns. Are you surprised that he said it and surprised that it happened?
Yeah, definitely surprised. Those things happen. Obviously that's a horrendous way to start a game. A pick on the first play is awful enough, and much less they run it back for a touchdown. That's a horrible way to start a game. But you bounce back. It's early in the game. You get guys on the sideline. You say, look, that's just one play. We got a whole game to make up for this. And so I don't. There's no reason to press the panic button that early in the game. I get it's on the road. It's in a hostile environment. The crowd's going crazy. That gets the fans even more into the game when a play like that happens. But you got veteran players on that football team, and those guys should be able to calm everyone down and rally around. And I don't know why guys would panic in that situation. Even though as tough as it is on the road, but guys have to talk to each other, communicate on the sidelines. It's just one play. Let's go out. We'll get it back. We'll make up for it, and kind of just keep everyone calm on the sidelines and believing in what you're doing in the game plan.
Tim, when you're on the field and a player when any player gets seriously hurt, obviously, but a player of the caliber, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's, you guys are all brothers, so maybe whether it's the 53rd guy or the best guy, it doesn't matter. But I'll just, for this example, a guy like Nick Chubb, who's so important to the team, appears to be like the greatest guy on the face of the earth, does all the right things.
Right.
When he gets hurt, and when that happens, everybody on the team knows how serious it is. What's that like, being on the sideline, being with your teammates when something like that happens?
Yeah, that part's awful. And, it does hit you hard when it's a guy like Nick Chubb who does literally everything right. Everything you ask of him, he does it. He doesn't, have any issues off the field. He's never misses practice or games. He's durable. He's just such a great player and such a valuable piece of the offense. And when he goes down, you're like, well, where do we go from here? We built our whole system pretty much around this guy. I know guys are going to have to come in and chip in and kind of running back by committee this thing, because no one's going to walk in and replace a Nick Chubb. So you have a lot of questions, on that side of the ball. Like, where do we go from here? So it's tough, man. It really is tough to see a guy like that go down, and all the players just really love Nick and what he brings to the team, the type of person he is. So you hate to see him lose his season like this. And I know he worked so hard in the offseason to get his body ready to go, and he was off to such a great start as he always is. And I just hated to see him go down. And it's tough to see anybody go down, especially a guy like Nick.
Mike,
Tim. I know you got to go in a sec, and I don't always look at our YouTube chat while the show's going on, but Anthony just alerted me to a comment I have to point out to you. Someone in the chat asked, why does this guest have a Tim Couch jersey on his wall? And I just want to tell that guest, Tim Couch is the guest, and there's a reason he has his own jersey on the wall. So, I think our guest is a big fan of Tim Couch.
They're age progressing Tim in their mind, thinking he should look much older than this guy. Who's this guy?
Well, it says it on the screen. Tim Couch joins
Hey, look,
so I just want to...
Our viewers, many of them are very smart, but some of them are not in the Mensa Club. So we're sorry about that.
Also the younger viewers, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, Tim, quickly. Two things. We need your prediction, and also I want you to tell us about your boy Chase, who is a ridiculous athlete and tearing it up in high school football.
Yeah. Chase is doing great. He's in his senior season right now, and we're 4-1 at the moment. The only loss we had was to the number 1 team in the state, and we lost. We went for it on 4th and inches, didn't convert it, so we ended up losing that game. But he's on a great team. No, that was actually to Boyle County. Yeah, to Boyle. So. Okay. But Corbin's got a great team too. We're actually ranked number 1 in the state in 2A, and I think Corbin's number 1 in the state in their class, and then Boyle is number 1 overall in all classes. So he's off to a great start. We're actually going on an official visit down to Marshall this weekend to watch him play Virginia Tech. So he's excited, man. He's got I guess 8 or 9 scholarship offers right now, and he's having a big season. So I'm really happy for him. He's got a lot of great opportunities ahead of him.
Very good. And who wins Sunday? Browns or Titans?
I like the Browns at home. I really do. I think they're going to bounce back just with that defense. I think if Deshaun can get anything going offensively, I think they win the game. But I got to go with the Browns at home, and it's probably betting with my heart. I hope they win. I couldn't stand to see them lose two in a row, so I'm going to go with the Browns at home.
I love it. A heart pick. Tim, thanks, man. We'll see you next week.
All right, appreciate you guys. All right, thanks.
Yeah, his son's a beast, and I think his younger one is a quarterback. And
he's also a D lineman.
Very, very good. Chase is a D lineman, And if I'm not mistaken, he's already got an offer from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Not a surprise.
Yeah, not a surprise at all. They'd be silly not to. I think the first coach they recruited and brought into town did pretty well.
Right.
Yeah, it did pretty well. All right, Mike, you got to read, and then we're moving on.
Yeah, just real quick, we want to remind everybody that after the Titans game on Sunday, myself, G. Bush, from the depths of his own home, which he has not been able to leave for a few days, and Earl will be doing our post-game show. Regardless of the outcome, we're breaking down analysis, instant reaction, hopefully celebrating a Browns win on Sunday over the Titans. But that starts at the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter, and we'll go for about an hour or however long it takes to break down what you guys need to know about the Browns and the Titans matchup on Sunday.
By the way, Mike,
oh, shoot.
The last couple of blocks before the TV studio today, instead of Jason, I wasn't driving like 80 miles an hour on the street, but I'm driving down the road.
86.
I'm like, wow, that guy over there looks like Earl. And then it was Earl.
Coming into work?
He walked to the bank this morning.
Well, one of my favorite stories on the drive to work is one day you were coming in and you're like, who is this idiot that's on my tail? And he flies by you and you see G. Bush on the license plate. That's great. Too good.
That's true.
Okay, so this season now has sort of become a do it for Nick Chubb sort of thing.
Win one for the Gipper.
We have win it for the Gipper. A lot of the players said that post-game after the loss. They reiterated it in media avail this week before the game, particularly you've got Myles Garrett who's saying, they're very close. I want to go out there and make sure that this wasn't in vain. And then yesterday we noticed that the Dallas Cowboys lost one of their star players. Diggs tore his ACL. It's a huge injury for them. I know, in practice. That's just awful. But after the practice, Micah Parsons told the media that I'm putting this team on my back, which I think he's already done. The question here for this one is, which player do you have more faith is going to go out and elevate their team's play because of their injured teammate? Do you buy that Micah Parsons is going to do that more, or is that going to be Myles Garrett?
I have to defer to Myles just because I know Myles, and I saw the look on his face Monday night after the game when we were talking about Nick and the injury and how, I don't know, distraught may be too strong, but he was upset.
Yeah.
And we mentioned on the show yesterday, guys will say this a lot, and oftentimes it's just lip service. But I believe it's true with the Browns and how they feel. And plus, Myles has been carrying the Browns and putting the Browns on his back for years. He's used to it.
It's nothing new.
So I'd put my vote in the Myles box just because he's done this before.
I protest the question. It's not a good question. Derek, terrible job out of you, Mike. How are we supposed to know? First,
there's a meter that you plug into each player, and it gives you a number.
Yeah.
You know that.
We don't watch Micah Parsons every play. Like, Micah Parsons is awesome.
We kind of do, because no team is on prime time more than the Cowboys.
They are on a lot.
I feel like I see them 9-10 times a year.
Yeah.
For the record, that was also the third question in this topic. The main question was, what does playing for Chubb actually look like on Sunday?
Yeah, but then again, that too is that's like asking, how confident are you? Well, I'm 6.6 on the confidence scale.
Then again, if we didn't like the question, we should have said something to Mike yesterday. So that's a bad job out of all of us.
No, I didn't like that question, so I went to the one that I figured was the only one with meat on the bone.
But it's a good topic.
That's right.
It is actually a good topic because do players do that? Like, are they motivated by playing for an injured teammate? And I would always ask, whenever we say, well, they're going to be more motivated because of trash talk, or they're going to be more motivated because of a player, I always ask the question to myself, well, why didn't they have, I would think, if I were good enough to be a professional athlete, that I would have motivation on 100 all the time.
You would think that, Bill, but
obviously it's not true.
You know that it's not true because you know that there are players that just when the play gets bigger, their performance gets better.
Right.
T.J. Watt is a guy that I think is very, very known for that. I also think that Aaron Donald is a guy. You saw him make a play in the Super Bowl that gave the ring to the Rams and took it from the Bengals. I think in those last couple of plays in that final series, in that final drive, you just saw Aaron Donald go to another gear.
Yeah.
And you didn't even think he had another gear.
I don't think T.J. Watt belongs in a conversation with Aaron Donald. I don't think T.J. Watt's ever won a playoff game, has he?
I don't know. I
don't think so.
But I'm not going to judge him on that. I'm talking about play in big moments in the games.
Yeah, I hear you.
T.J. Watt stands off the screen.
But Aaron Donald has played in big games. T.J. Watt really hasn't at the same level.
He's 0-1 in the playoffs, by the way. It's not
but I would say Monday night was a big game.
0-3 in the playoffs.
It's just as big game as any other game,
It's not a playoff game. You're right, but I think it's a huge game. The Steelers started 0-1.
Yeah.
They could not afford to go 0-2.
Again,
It was big for them, and he made big plays.
For all the talk of Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt, the best player in that game was Alex Highsmith. I don't even think it's debatable.
Well,
and the second best player was Grant Delpit.
Partly because of who Highsmith was lined up against. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah.
If for that game, Highsmith had to go up against Joe Thomas. Like, he was blowing by.
Well, but T.J. Watt
Jed Wills like he wasn't there.
T.J. Watt's always getting the easier test in these games because he's often going against the right tackle, which Myles Garrett more often goes against the left tackle.
I think he probably does more often than not go against the right tackle.
Who?
Or the left tackle, I mean.
Yeah, Myles. But anyway, I do think that I am buying that the Browns are going to be extra motivated because of Nick Chubb. I am buying that. Does that mean, they should win this freaking game? This is ridiculous. Go and beat the Titans. The Titans are not that good. The Browns have a better defense. They should have a better offense. They're at home.
We always undervalue the Titans. Every
not
year.
just the Titans. I feel like it's every team. Last week you were saying, and we said at your own peril, Steelers aren't any good. They're not, but they beat us. But what scares me is, I've heard a lot of people this week say, the Titans we're supposed to beat the Titans. The Titans last year with a backup quarterback were a playoff team.
No, they weren't. They didn't make the playoffs.
I thought that. Did they not make the playoffs?
No, they won like 7 games.
What'd they finish?
A game under 500.
Oh, it's because they were in the division. But if they won their last game, they would have made the playoffs, correct?
But they didn't make it.
No, I know. But I mean,
they
I don't
lost
think,
their 7 last games.
I don't think we want to just. What's their record?
They had lost 10 games in a row before last week.
What's their record?
They're 1-1.
Okay.
But what's your point?
Well, they beat the Chargers last week.
Beat a pretty good team
I understand that. I understand that.
Last week we were dismissing the Steelers at our own peril.
Them. I didn't think the Steelers. Nobody thought. I thought the Browns were going to win, but I didn't go into it saying there's no chance the Steelers are going to win the game. It's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody on any given week. We get it. What I'm saying is the Browns have the better roster. They're at home. Win the freaking game. Let's go.
They
Not
should.
that the Titans can't.
I mean, what are they? 3.5-point favorite?
And this underestimating the Titans. They haven't played the Titans in 3 years, so it's not like we're talking about the Titans that much.
But we always. I mean, I'm just as guilty of it. When we talked about if you're a sound defense and a running team, well, you're the Tennessee Titans. You're not going to win anything playing
because they haven't won anything.
Yes, but they win a lot of games in the regular season.
Not last year.
Well, they lost Tannehill last year. For what did he miss? The entire second half of the season?
I don't know. I don't remember how much he.
How many games did Tannehill play last year?
Give me 1 sec.
Before he went out. It was interesting when we had Teresa on yesterday. She had said that Tannehill really looked bad in week 1, rusty. Yeah. And then she said there was almost like a flip was switched. And she said, oh, there's Tannehill again. That's the guy that we've come to know.
He played 12 games.
And what was stunning
what
to
was
me?
his record last year?
What was
6-6.
Okay, so they're about a 500 team with them.
That's not good.
Go over over the last season plus, the Browns are 3 games under 500.
That's not good either.
It's not. I think the home field and the Browns defense, to your point, that's a W. Don't screw it up. Don't throw interceptions. Deshaun Watson is – the Browns' offense, I think, has turned it over 6 times. Am I right?
That is correct.
Watson's responsible for most of those, if not all of them. I don't know. He fumbled twice.
Njoku fumbled once. That's not on Watson at all.
No, but Watson fumbled twice last week and threw a pick.
He had 3, correct.
Okay.
The week before he threw a pick,
he had
somebody
a pick.
fumbled. Who fumbled the week before? Was it Elijah Moore?
Ford.
Ford
fumbled.
Watson dropped the snap.
He's responsible for 4 of the 6 turnovers.
I think really, if you were going to, for me, if you're going to clean up one area, it's the turnovers. If you don't give the ball away with this defense, you should beat 75% of the teams on your schedule.
The Titans won 7 games last year. But prior to that, 12, 11, 9, 9, 9, 9. Like, they're a good team in the regular season. They're not going to win a championship.
Yeah, but
they're
not the same team that won those games. They've lost some of their talent over the years.
But they still have the same formula and the same identity of very disciplined team, really well coached. They run the ball, and they play good defense. Yeah. I know they've had problems.
I don't think their defense has been very good the last
Well, we're
going
to find out Sunday. Yeah. We'll find out. But it's a formula. Like, I remember in 2019 thinking the Browns were going to roll them.
I did too.
And how wrong
we all did, and we were wrong.
And ever since then, with the Titans, they're better than you ever give them credit for. I think. And not you personally, just
Yeah.
all of us in general.
I don't think.
I just think we dismiss it.
I think during those years you were right. I think that runs over for the Titans personally, but we'll see.
You might be right.
We'll find out. I mean, they did. It was a good win beating the Chargers last week, no doubt.
Really
That's a
big
good win. I'm just saying, like, you're supposed to win your home games against teams aren't. I mean, let's just get it done.
Last night, Thursday Night Football, they talked about when was the last time the Niners lost a home game. I think they've won 11 of 12 or 12 in a row, something like that at home.
But they're a good franchise.
They're not a good franchise. They're a great franchise who right now has a great football team. That's a really, really, really good football team. I just remember the whole time I was watching them last night, I'm shaking my head saying, that's not
The
us.
only question with them is health, which is for every team.
Sure.
And is Purdy good enough when it matters? We'll see.
Yeah.
He could have. I like Purdy, and I thought he played well for the second half. But in that first drive, he threw
missed
3
some
balls
throws.
that could have been picks.
He missed some throws.
That could have easily
for
been
sure.
picks.
I'm just
but
curious.
McCaffrey is he
God,
good?
is he good?
He's on another level right now.
Today's Friday, and we have shot, stabbed, burned, and buried the bodies of the Browns for all week long.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. If Jed Wills blocks Alex Highsmith,
They win.
they win that game.
They win the game.
What are we saying?
Well,
We're not as negative. We're still worried about
Watson. You know the
though.
saying, though, the winning hides all the warts.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you go back, when you win a game by 1 point, you forget all of the plays that
Right, that's
preceded
right.
the final gun
Right.
that didn't go well because you got the. That's
'Cause you
why it's
won the
just
game.
about just win
Yep.
That's
and
right.
advance.
And figure it out.
And
But
figure it out.
We would still be worried about Watson. But any criticism of Watson, people would say they're 2-0. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
to some degree, that's true.
It was like when the Steelers were 11-0, and you watch them week after week squeak out wins. Like,
But
I'm
you knew.
not sure this football team's actually good, but they're 11-0. So what can I say about
Yeah,
it?
I think
no, you
people
just-
felt that way about the Vikings last year.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example.
It's happened a number of times where teams jump off to this ridiculous start and they just get breaks. The Browns haven't had breaks.
Yeah.
They just haven't. From the very first snap of that football game, I immediately I thought back to the playoff game when the Browns did the same thing to the Steelers, but in their building.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, oh, here comes the tidal wave. Like, this is the way it's going to be today. And
But in the end, it
wasn't.
it ended the same way it started.
Yeah, but it wasn't a title
A
wave.
turnover that led to a touchdown, and that was it.
But if I recall, the Browns answered on the next possession, didn't they? Isn't that when Nick got hurt? Or no?
No.
That was
No.
second quarter.
Yeah, second quarter.
So they tied it the second. I was at the game. You'd think I'd remember. It was 4 days ago.
It all blurs
It
together.
was the second quarter, I guess.
It all
when they
blurs
tied
together.
But I felt like they handled that first punch okay.
I thought they did too. They survived it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in the end, it ended the same way it started.
Yeah.
We gave them the football and 6 points. You can't do it.
This is I always get mad when people say must wins early in the season.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling this a must win.
No.
But it's going to
It's
be
a really important game.
If they don't win this game, things are going to get ugly.
Well, we talked yesterday. If
Yeah.
you don't win, you're 1-2 looking at Baltimore, San Francisco.
Stefanski's on the hot seat, officially on the hot seat. If they lose this game.
Remember G, all off season,
You got 4 games.
6, I think he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said
You got 6 games.
Because there's
And if you start 1-2, and then you've got to face Baltimore and San Francisco, they'll probably be underdogs in both of those games. If you
the
lose
Baltimore
those,
game's at home.
yeah, I know, but I mean, if they lose
Yeah, if
this
they
and
lose
fall
to
to 1-2,
Tennessee,
they'll
yeah.
likely be a home dog. I mean,
slight dog.
you
Maybe a
hate
pick 'em.
looking
Maybe a
ahead,
pick 'em.
but
Yeah.
it's not like we have Arizona and the Jets.
No, right.
We've got Baltimore followed by San Francisco with the bye week in between.
Yeah.
If you do start 1-4, you know how it comes unraveled really quickly.
Well, you think if they go 1-3, you think Stefanski can get fired? 1-3.
I don't think that.
There's a
see.
bye.
I've said all offseason.
I know you have.
It's setting up for a bye week firing, but it depends on what those look like. It's hard to
Yeah.
say without seeing how they look. I think they're going to be 2-2 at the bye. I really struggled with this pick. I really struggled. I didn't send it to Anthony till about 9:15 this morning because I hate being wrong. Oh my God, I hate being wrong. So these prediction things drive me crazy. I take them way too seriously, and I kept flip-flopping, going back and forth on. And I told you guys I didn't have a good feeling even if they won Monday. I didn't think I was going to pick them to win this game because it was such a physical game in a short week and everything else.
Yeah.
But I do think even if they lose this game, they're going to come back and beat Baltimore. I just feel like this is a 2-2 team at the bye.
Okay. Look, at 2-2, nobody's getting fired at 2-2.
No.
I don't even think he's getting fired at 1-3.
No.
1-5, that might be a different story.
Let's not even get to 1-5.
No.
Let's get to 2-1 first.
Let's
Let's get
do
to
that.
2-1
Can we
first.
please
Win
do
on
that?
Sunday, and then we can deal with what happens after that.
All right. Hit us with a read.
Guys, if you were in the chat, if you're watching, if you're one of the thousands of people out there watching today, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Do us a favor. It goes a long way to making sure our videos get delivered to the right people to watch Browns content. If the Browns win, and actually let me phrase it, when the Browns win on Sunday, we'll be having a post-game show as well. Myself, Earl G, we're going to push that as much as possible, as well as us going to WKYC at 12:30 today, so make sure you stick around and watch with us then. Jay, you teased it up off the top of the show. You found some statistical potential anomaly pattern that you want to share?
I think I did. And I'll preface this, too, by saying that maybe it's too small a sample size. I know I kind of kidded with Bull. A lot of times when I make a stat, he'll say, but it's too early. We don't know. And he's right. Obviously, you want more games to make some sort of overarching statement. But we have asked on this show for really 2 years, the whole time we've been on, what does Kevin Stefanski have over the Bengals? How is he consistently beating a really good football team? He's 6-1 against Cincinnati. And many of those games have been 2-score games. Some of them have been 3-score games. It's really been impressive what he has done against the Cincinnati Bengals. 6 wins, 1 loss. Against everybody else in the NFL, he is 3 games under 500. But what I wanted to focus in on was just the divisional games. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are the bullies of the division. Do we agree? Mm-hmm. They're the mean, physical, hard-hitting teams. Cincinnati is the finesse team in the division. Against the... I just think they are both.
The Bengals defensively, I don't think of them as finesse, but...
No, but I don't think of them as beating us up. I don't think of them as having an attitude. When I think of Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I think this. I think exactly what we saw Monday night. They're going to try to lay you out. They are hitting you with a purpose, not just to end the play.
Yeah.
They want to take their pound of flesh. Against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, Kevin Stefanski is 4-9. And we
5-9. 5-9.
No, I didn't give him the playoff win. And he's got a 6-9 combined.
That's what the Titans.
Yeah,
they played this week.
Yeah, I didn't throw for my numbers. I just went in the division. Yeah. It's teams we see on a regular basis. We know all of them well. They know us. Mm-hmm. I just think that oftentimes you're right. Numbers are so close, or there's not that big. We don't have a large sample size. This is 3+ years of games in the division. And the team that has been the best team in the division is 6-1. And I would consider them more the thoroughbred finesse team. And the teams that are just beat you up and leave you black and blue, we're 4-9 against those teams. And we always say that coaches take their personality and it just trickles down to the players, and that's how they play. And I think in this case there's something to that, Bull. I don't know how else to answer it.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't do well when other teams take the fight to us.
I want to know more of the offensive because I don't like defensively. You're right, especially Pittsburgh. They're very physical defensively. They've always been. I don't know that Baltimore is as much now as they were in past years. I don't think of the Steelers as a tough team offensively, though, physically. Like in terms of the Browns fighting.
No, but they're defense. Also, I think you'd agree with this, they're also not a finesse team. And Bull, to be completely honest with you, I am looking at this more on I think defense is what sets the attitude and the tone.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you're on offense, the idea is to score points. It's hard to bully other teams into the end zone because that would mean you're just doing what Atlanta did to us last year, where they just, every single play, they're taking it to us.
Yeah.
Typically on offense, the goal is to score points, and being a bully on offense, I think that you set the tone for a game with that big hit, that hit that lays out the other team's quarterback and it takes them a minute to get up. I think that our defense, although very good this year, I think this year our defense is closer to Pittsburgh and Baltimore than it's been any other time under Kevin Stefanski.
I think the Browns have a much better defense than Baltimore.
I do too.
Yeah.
And so what I'm anxious to see is how we play out against Baltimore and Pittsburgh now that our defense has got dog in it. Because the first 3 years of Stefanski, I kept scratching my head saying, where's the dog?
Yeah.
Who's the dog? Now I think the dog is Jim Schwartz. And I hope that all of the defensive players take on his personality like they've done in Baltimore for years. I know it was under Wink, but I still think that the guy driving that bus is Harbaugh, and that's the way he wants to play football.
And yet the Bengals, during that same time, have a good record against both the Steelers and the Ravens.
How do you figure it?
Yeah, it's weird.
I think Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson have that dog.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Grant Delpit might be one of those guys.
He's becoming one.
He's playing much, much, much better.
Do you buy those numbers? 4-9, 6-1. I mean, I'm just scratching my head, Jay, trying to figure out what is it.
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit something to the physicality of the style that Baltimore and Pittsburgh play. I also think, when the argument we're having earlier about pull his numbers out against Cincinnati out of the equation. Listen, he's a 500 coach, period. With Cincinnati, without Cincinnati.
Yes.
A couple games over 500, a couple games under 500. You're still a 500 coach.
Yeah.
And so I think we make a little bit too much of that if you say pull the Bengals out and then look at his record. Well, it's pretty much the same as what it is with Cincinnati. It's 500. He had one really good year. He's had a couple of not so good
however, yes, without it, he's a couple over. With it, he's a couple under. Mm-hmm. But he's 5 games over 500 against one team with a 7-game body of work.
Yeah, it's just I have no explanation for it, and I've yet to find anyone that has one either.
And these games, for the most part, against Cincinnati haven't been close.
Yeah.
Halloween last year, week 1 this year.
Yeah.
Go back a couple of years ago, be 41-18 or something.
I think there's 4 games that fit the category you're talking about, because the first 2 wins by Stefanski, the Bengals were bad. That was Burrow's rookie year.
Yes.
They were still terrible.
Yeah.
And then one of the wins in 21,
they didn't play the starters at the end of the year.
But there's been 4 games where the Bengals were a good team with all their, or most of their players, certainly Burrow, and the Browns are 3-1 in those games.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive. Why? I mean, is it the physicalness of the defense against Pittsburgh or Baltimore? Is it that Pittsburgh and Baltimore are much better coached than both Cincinnati and Cleveland? But, and some of it's just matchups, right? Like Denzel Ward, for whatever reason, and Myles Garrett play their best football against the Bengals. They don't play as well. They haven't played as well consistently against Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason? You just said, Jason, nobody's been able to give you a specific reason.
No,
you talk to the guys with the Browns, they can't tell you why they've owned that series?
Nobody, if they do know, they're keeping it to themselves.
Yeah.
But nobody.
Why is Patrick Mahomes 1-3 against the Bengals?
It's a great question.
And beats everybody and never loses to anybody else.
It's the same thing's going on for them, and I don't know. It's just, I know sometimes a team just has another team's number, and maybe that's all this is. But I do think that we see a different Cleveland Brown team when they're playing Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, the 4-9 bears that out. Yes, he is a 500 coach, but when you look at his record against those teams, he's 5 games under in just 13 games.
Yeah.
That's
bad.
They've owned Kevin Stefanski, and that's got to turn around.
Well, they've
you're
owned
win
the
the
entire
division,
franchise for 25 years.
They have.
It's not just Kevin. It's the fact that those are 2 really good. I mean, they're 2 of the jewels of the NFL. With 2 of the best head coaches, as far as I'm concerned, leading them. Like Tomlin and Harbaugh is we talk about. There's only a handful of coaches that really have an impact and are elite coaches.
Aren't they the most tenured coaches at their except for Belichick?
Yeah. I mean, I would put those.
Andy Reid. Reid is.
I know people.
Reid. Yeah, it's switched.
People are down on Tomlin a little bit, but I'm not. I still think he's an elite head coach.
I do too.
I'd put him in that category.
I do too.
So that's. I mean, the Browns are fighting an uphill battle. Just from the start, when you have 2 of the premier franchises in the NFL historically over the last 25 years, now you've got the Bengals with Burrow in there.
Who are a yardstick team over the last 3 years.
Absolutely, and better than those other 2.
It's nuts.
So,
but, it's a big if. Big if. But if the Browns sweep the Ravens this year, they will be 500 against the Ravens.
You know what they say about if.
Yeah, well, if his butt's
but again,
nuts.
And I know they didn't, but if Jed makes that block on Highsmith and they win that game, the tenor of today in this entire week is totally different.
Win one for Chubb. Let's get it done. I hope they play with that attitude.
The reason I bring that up is because I think that Mike Vrabel is a lot more Baltimore and Pittsburgh than he is Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so that's a similar matchup that we're going to see. Now, he's 1-0 against Vrabel, head-to-head. I think they won 40.
It was in 2020.
That was an impressive win.
First season,
That was a really good win.
That was an impressive win.
41-35, and that was when
Correct.
Baker was here in 2020.
2020, correct.
Okay.
It was a late season game. I
So we'll see. It was
Against
a
a
big
really good
game. It was a
Titans.
big game for their playoff push.
The Titans were good that year.
Yeah,
They were.
They were
Yeah.
legitimately
So
good.
I like
In fact,
that.
I think the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC before the Bengals beat them in the second round. I believe in 21.
You might be right. You might be right.
I think so. But in terms of their offense, Tennessee is more aligned with Baltimore, not Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a run-first team.
Well, they haven't been because right now they're scratching their head saying, who's our runner?
Yeah. I mean, last year Pittsburgh was middle of the pack in terms of percentage of running plays. This year they're 31st in percentage of running plays.
Well, they were down big in
No, I
the
hear.
entire
That's why
week
this year
one.
you take it with a grain
Yeah,
of salt.
yeah.
But even last year they were middle of the pack, whereas the Titans and Ravens are top 5.
They run the ball.
In terms of percentage of
yeah.
run plays with Atlanta and
But again, I'm
Chicago.
talking more about the attitude and style of the defense.
Sure.
And Vrabel is definitely in the Pittsburgh-Baltimore camp.
He
there.
is, but I don't think the Titans defense hasn't been as good the last couple of years as, we think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are now, or at least Pittsburgh. I don't know. You can't read too much into the numbers in terms of, the statistics this year. Like the ranks this year are stupid. It's 2 games.
Yeah,
those are
means
kind of
nothing.
mean. You can go from 28th to probably 6th in 1 week at this
You
point in
can.
the season
Yeah.
if you play a really great game. But listen, there's no denying. We're all in agreement here. The Titans are well coached, and that's the reason to some degree they've overachieved some of these years.
Yeah. And Mike Vrabel loves coming back here and playing. Teresa was talking about that yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being a hometown kid, he's 2-0 in Cleveland as a coach. So.
His ties to Ohio and to this area in particular are a lot stronger than most people think.
Oh, yeah.
He is extremely proud of his heritage and his Ohio roots. And, I was surprised that there wasn't some sort of a move to bring him here when they brought Stefanski in. I still think that, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if they move on from Kevin, like Mike Vrabel would be my list.
Well, he's not going to – it would be a lateral move. They're not going to be able to –
No, it wouldn't for him because he's coming home.
Yeah, but he could.
I would think that if he moves out of Tennessee, it would either be a premier job or it would be Ohio State
I
or
actually
Cleveland.
thought that. I thought he would be an Ohio State guy. He would go to
Yes,
Ohio State.
and I think also that the likelihood that he goes to Ohio State, I think the chances of that happening are probably greater than him coming to
yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
but
that's not
if the
happening.
cards fell the right way, say
Right.
Ryan Day beats Michigan this year and there's zero talk now of moving on from Ryan Day, and things go sideways here and you're talking about bringing in a new coach, like I just think it's a perfect match.
I just don't see how he gets out of Tennessee to come to Cleveland. But even if Day beats Michigan, we're getting way off track.
Yeah.
I still think days are numbered.
Now, to be fair, I don't think
Columbus.
I don't think Vrabel's only got 1 playoff win. Also, I think, right? What's his playoff record?
Give me 1 sec.
He's had obviously he's had more success in the regular season than the
right, but
postseason.
he's in a much easier division.
But at this
also.
point, the last time we hired a coach, not for an interim job, but a head coach that had any previous experience, do you know when that was?
Previous experience as a head coach?
As a head
it was
coach.
Mangini.
Yeah, it was Mangini. And before that,
No.
what do you mean no?
There was never.
That was it? Yeah, Schottenheimer, Bud,
They were all first-timers.
Tigliano.
Yeah.
Everything in this regime, with the exception
No,
of Mangini.
actually, Hugh Jackson was a second timer.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
He was.
Hugh,
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson had
1 year in Oakland.
And was that kind of I mean, he did the whole year. He was 8-8, I think.
Yeah.
But even when they made that move, I don't know if they called him the interim and said they were going to look at it after the season.
No, he was the head.
Yeah,
he
I'm
was the
pretty
head
sure he
coach.
was the head
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
In Oakland.
Vrabel has 2 playoff wins, by the way.
Oh,
So
Two.
I
in his
just
career.
think that part of it is bringing people in that have done this before, and not letting someone cut their first time teeth.
I am a big believer in you learn from your mistakes and you're better the second time around. I do believe
But
that's
that
true.
doesn't work in all cases.
But I just think with experience and being able to take a step back and saying, I did this right, I did that wrong, I like how we did that, I probably could have been better at that. I just think the second time around, you get the label of retread.
Yeah.
But I just think you learn so much going through it for the first time.
Sure. stat yesterday
but
that
there's
said-
plenty of second-time coaches that are doing a terrible job.
Sure, and there's plenty
Sean
of second-time
Payton.
coaches who are
I mean,
pretty
he's not
good.
doing, I wouldn't say a terrible job.
Well,
He's off to 0-2
look
start.
at Josh McDaniels.
Josh
I mean,
McDaniels. There are a lot of them in the Belichick tree that
Yeah.
people
And
think
then-
there's got to be some genius there. Let's give them another shot.
Right.
New coaches this year are 1-9.
Yeah, but aren't most of them on bad teams?
Well, they're always on bad teams. When are you When are you a new coach on a great team?
It doesn't right. So like,
doesn't happen.
I don't think that's an indictment on new coaches.
No, but okay, give me 4-7.
It's too. We can't judge. I'm not going to judge a coach based on 2 weeks.
No,
we got a long way to go. But
they're not doing well.
I said last year, Sean Payton. I never thought he was an elite coach. I thought he had an elite quarterback.
Yeah,
and he bailed as soon as Drew Brees retired. Payton bailed, and now we'll see. He's got 15 more. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they're all going to be with Russ Wilson at quarterback either.
I don't know when they can move on from him.
They're stuck they're almost stuck with him like we are with Watson. Not quite as bad, but close.
It's pretty close. Neck and neck.
Yeah.
You got to read, Mike?
I got 2 more reads today. Here's the first one. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind. So you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have all the proper medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared and save more than $360 by getting those life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Guys, the Browns' run defense for the first 2 weeks of the season has been stellar, but they have not yet faced a running back near the quality of one Derrick Henry. Do you think the Browns will be able to shut down King Henry this week, or are we going to see and learn if the Browns' rush defense is a little bit of fool's gold based on their first 2 opponents?
So their run D is 4th in the NFL right now, yards per carry. As Bull likes to point out, it's 2 games. It means very, very, very little.
Against 2 teams that don't run the ball.
They didn't have premier running backs. I mean, Mixon's
a really good back.
And he had some moments against the Browns, but they were down by so much they were slinging it. And then obviously Pittsburgh, I think that their best back is their second string back, and it pretty much bore that out against us on Monday night. But it is what it is. We only have a short sample size, so we'll use it. The Browns' run defense has been pretty good against it this year. They're 4th in the NFL. Derrick Henry, who's normally near or at the top, yards per carry, has not been the same guy yet. Started slowly last year and found his groove, so let's not write him off. But he's averaging 3.6 yards per carry. That's not even in the upper half.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, even last year, from 18, 19, and 20, he was between 5 and 5.5 yards per carry, which is elite.
Nick Chubb, yeah.
The last 2 years, in 21 and 22, 4.3, and then last year, 4.4. Now, his total yardage was huge last year because they give him the ball a zillion times.
Sure.
But 4.4 is not elite. It's good. It's
very
still good.
It's very good,
but it's not elite.
Elite is when you're in the 5 neighborhood, you're elite.
That's right. And so far, 40 carries, 143 yards. It's 3.6 per game. And he's carried the ball 40 times. So.
I'm nervous, though.
That's a task, no doubt.
I'm not going to say that one side or the other has a clear edge and that they're going to stone him. And I'm also not going to say that he's going to run for 180. But he's going to get his yards. He's going to get his yards. Maybe somewhere, his average right now is only 71 a game. I think he'll eclipse that.
Yeah.
Don't know that he'll go over 100. But, look, he's still Derrick Henry. And he's going to be tough to stop.
Right, and they did add DeAndre Hopkins, who I wasn't even thinking about the other day with Treylon Burks. But so their wide receiving core is better. I like Treylon Burks. I think he's got potential. I haven't seen him enough to know how good he is. But with DeAndre Hopkins is still a threat, certainly in the passing game. Right. So it's not like you can completely ignore their passing game. Ryan Tannehill's not great, but they've got talented guys. But I think if you're the Browns, I think their run defense is legit. I also think you have to continue to trust that your corners are good enough that you don't need to give them extra help. Like, they should be able to handle the job, and so the safeties can be more involved in the run game. Because that's ultimately what Tennessee wants to do, even though they have good wide receivers.
Yeah, I believe in the upgrades they made at defensive tackle, so therefore I believe in the run defense.
Right.
And I think it will hold even in a matchup like this. I do think Henry's probably still getting his legs under him, and he's just going to get better as it goes on. But also, at some point, there is going to be a cliff. Like, this isn't LeBron and Tom Brady. He's a running back at some point.
And he's a running back
with a lot of miles on his tires.
Yeah, 5 years.
He's been overused. If you can do that today, he's been an overused running back.
Yeah, so at some point, he is going to hit that wall. And the yards between the 20s don't scare me as much as the yards in the red zone.
Right.
I guess. And we've talked about that before. Defenses will give you whatever you want between the 20s. It's holding you to 3 rather than 6. And obviously with the punishing running style like that, that's where the red zone really becomes a factor. So I'm more interested in what he does in the red zone.
Do you think the Browns or Henry win that matchup?
Oh, I think I'd say the Browns. I think the Browns are going to win the matchup.
Good,
and yet when you see my headline,
uh-oh. You've given us a little bit of idea where you're going. One thing that I want to do right now is tease what's coming up in our 12:30 show, because that matchup is going to be one to watch for sure, but the three of us will tell you what we think the matchup is, which one will decide the game.
Yeah.
Is it, Derrick Henry against the Browns' interior defensive line? Is it the Tannehill arm against the Browns' cover corners? We're going to pick the most pivotal matchup to watch. That's coming up at 12:30 over on WKYC Channel 3 here in Cleveland. If you're not in the Cleveland area and you still want to watch it, you can go to WKYC.com, click on the Watch Live button, or what I recommend is downloading the WKYC Plus app. Then you can put it on your smart TV at home and watch it on the big screen TV with no problem.
By the way, Jay, before you move on, to put it in perspective, how often Derrick Henry has toted the rock over the last 4 years. Forget this year so far. From 2019 to 2022, Derrick Henry has over 300 more rushing attempts than Nick Chubb. And by the way, for all the complaints about Nick Chubb's like third in rushing attempts in the last 4 years, maybe either second or third.
Now, if you break that down, that's 4 years. Okay, that's 4 years.
Yeah.
And
that's correct. I'm just talking about the last 4 years. It's more.
You said 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Last
so
4
that's
years.
4 years. He has 300 more carries.
That's basically playing one more season.
So here's what that basically means.
Yeah.
It means he's getting 75 more carries a season.
It's even more than that because it's more than 300.
Which comes down to like almost 5 carries more per game.
Yes. I don't know who's played more games. Nick Chubb's missed a little time. Derrick Henry in 21 missed a few games.
Missed some time, yeah. It's probably close.
But it can't be far off.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close.
I mean,
that's a significant
difference. He's essentially
difference.
played one more season than Nick Chubb in the last 5 years, if you add up the carries.
Yeah.
And Nick Chubb carries the ball a lot compared
to
most
Chubb carries it 18 times a game, he's carrying it 23 times a game.
That adds up.
It does add up. Those are all you've got, the body has, you've heard this before, the body has so many hits in it.
Yeah.
It has so many,
right.
You have so many miles. And you said that he's going to hit a cliff. A lot of times at that position, it's one day it's there and the next day it's gone.
I mean, the list of running backs that were great, not good, but great for at least a year or two, and then we're out of the league 2 years later, is long. There's guys that people have mentioned to me recently because we've been playing this, the immaculate grid with football.
Right.
So my buddy and I go back and forth on this. And there's so many guys just in the last decade that you're like, wow, I forgot how good that guy was for a couple of years.
And then flash and
then gone.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I got 2 questions for you real quick.
Go ahead.
First, the Titans and the Browns are both tied second in the league, allowing 65 rush yards per game.
Right.
Now, I know the Titans have played the Saints and the Chargers, while the Browns have played Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. We don't watch Tennessee as closely as we watch Cleveland, obviously.
Of course
but
not.
Of those 2 run defenses, which one do you have more faith in of actually being a sustained, dominant rush defense throughout the season?
I'm not going to be a phony. I don't know enough about the Titans. I know Jeffrey Simmons is really good.
Simmons is great, and that's all I know, too.
Out of the rest, Joe Mixon, when they played the Chargers, there was no Austin Eckler.
Right.
Okay? So if you look at those 4 teams that the Titans and Browns have played, Joe Mixon is actually the best back of the 4 teams without Eckler. But the Bengals didn't run the ball a lot, and neither did the Steelers.
Right.
Your Steelers don't run the ball a lot. The Chargers don't run the ball a lot either. The Saints are a running team, but Alvin Kamara hasn't played yet.
Yeah.
And Jamal Williams got hurt in that first game.
It's tough to go on total yards because it's 2 games.
Yeah.
And how those games played out have a significant impact on how much you run the ball, particularly Cincinnati down 3 touchdowns. They didn't run a lot. They just didn't. I went to yards per carry for mine.
Yeah.
And the Browns were, I think I said, 4th in the NFL. They're averaging 3.6 yards per rushing attempt against.
And what were
That's
the Titans?
Good.
Do we have that?
The Titans were very good too. I didn't write down their rank on yards per carry.
Right.
But they were up. They were very good.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
I just think it's too early to judge teams based on the stats.
But to Jason's point, I like the pieces that they've added when it comes to stopping the run. And I think it's safe to say they're going to be significantly better at stopping the run this year than last year. Are they going to be better than Tennessee at the end of the year? I don't know.
I think we all believe in the Browns' ability to stop the run and just be really good on the defensive line right now. There's no reason not to.
Right.
I don't know enough about the bread and butter of the Titans' defensive line to know how good they're going to be the whole year.
Yeah.
I got the numbers. So Cleveland is 4th right now.
3.6, right?
3.2. Tennessee is 2nd, 2.7. So
okay, that's very
impressive.
High
on both. My next question for you guys before we read some super chats. We have spent the first.
But real quick, Mike.
Yes.
In reality, now with Nick Chubb out, the Titans have the edge at running back, obviously.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, they do.
Big time.
Yeah.
All right, we're not doing this in the TV show coming up at 12:30 on WKYC, which you should all tune into. Please help us out. But real quick, we spent the first hour and 15 minutes here. I think rightfully so, but as Jason said earlier, we kind of buried the Browns. What makes you feel optimistic about their chances on Sunday against the Titans? What makes you go into this game feeling confident, feeling
good?
Their
defense.
Their defense?
Yeah.
Their defense, the ability that they showed last year in bouncing back from a horrific loss in Week 2 to the Jets at home on a short week to come back and beat Pittsburgh 4 days later on a Thursday night, that showed something. And I know it didn't carry the rest of the year, but to be able to put that behind them and come back, this loss in Pittsburgh on Monday night had that same gut punch feel for obviously very different reasons. So I think that they are capable of putting it behind them. The motivation to play well for Nick, all of that stuff, it all plays a factor in that. And as Jay said, the defense, I'm just not sold yet on this offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. What else? How could you be confident in the offense right now? They're throwing, their passing game's been terrible. I mean,
you have an unproven back now.
I think Jerome Ford could be decent, but how do we know?
Right.
We've only seen him play basically one game. And Nick Chubb was able to make up for the deficiencies of the tackles. I don't know that Jerome Ford can do that. I don't know if there's many guys that can do that.
It appears Ford has such a different running style than Nick, and we've talked about I still roll my eyes a little bit at the PFF grades, but for the sake of this,
here we go.
No, well, if it fits my argument, I'm going to use it.
There you go.
The run grades on the tackles has been horrendous, and we said, well, they have Nick. When you got Nick Chubb,
makes up for it.
Makes up for it. Well, that's gone.
That's gone.
I'm terrified about our run game. Because I said this after the loss Monday night. When you become one-dimensional, you're halfway to defeat.
I don't think they're going to be one. They're not. They're at least going to attempt to not be one-dimensional.
Well, they're going to try. But when Mike reads those numbers, that they're 2.7 yards per carry against them. Now, granted, they didn't face Eckler when they played the Chargers, so I get that. But it is what we have to go off of. They've been pretty stout against the run. We lost our run horse. We're bringing a guy in who last week was watching the game on Monday night with his feet up on the sofa just like us.
Right, but he's not going to be the main guy.
No, but he's one of. He's number 2.
Yep.
Or number 3. I don't know how they're going to parse that out.
You don't go from Planet Fitness on Monday to Brown Stadium on Friday. The following
you
Sunday.
do, but how do you typically look?
Yeah.
And that's what scares me. So I am absolutely terrified that although I think we'll try to establish the run early, if you have a couple of quick 3-and-outs because you're not being able to run the ball, now if you panic when you threw a pick 6, you're likely going to panic when you realize there's no chance you're going to run it all day, and that's when you become one-dimensional, and that's what scares me.
Yeah, they're confident in Jerome Ford. Now, we'll see. I also heard the same thing about wait till you see Deshaun, and we've seen it. So, but they have a lot of confidence that Jerome Ford's going to be just fine. He did have a couple of nice runs Monday night, and now with a whole week's worth of reps, like that's important to understand too. Like he wasn't getting starters reps in practice. Well, he is now, and it was a short week, but he's got starters workload Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we'll see how Jerome Ford looks on Sunday.
By the way, this idea that it would be okay, obviously be better if Watson were average and not terrible. We'd all take that for now. But the idea that would be good enough in the long term is ridiculous.
It's not going to be good enough in the long term. You're right. But if you have an elite defense, and we think we do, if you have an elite defense, you can win with an average quarterback.
You can get to the playoffs.
You can beat the Tennessee Titans.
You may not win. You may not win the Super Bowl. But you can win, and that's why I said earlier this week I had as our ceiling perhaps getting to the AFC Championship game with a healthy Nick Chubb. I've amended that now, but I would take that, Bull. I know ultimately the end game is to win a Super Bowl, and you've got 5 years to do it. 4 left. Let's just get an average Deshaun Watson this year and an elite defense and maybe 2 playoff games.
Yeah.
And then next year, try to get this guy jump-started and back to who he was when he was in Houston.
Yeah.
And then if you can do that in year 3, this contract suddenly doesn't look like an albatross.
Yeah, yes, in theory, if it all goes that way,
Right.
I would agree with you.
I'm being extremely optimistic
I
with my
just don't
blueprint.
buy that a mediocre Deshaun Watson is going to win them a playoff game, even with a really good defense. Because I think there's so many good teams in the AFC, and I know the Bengals are off to a bad start. And listen, if Burrow's dealing with the calf all year, they may just have a terrible year and whatever.
Right.
But, like, Kansas City's still there. I know Buffalo had a bad week 1. They clobbered their opponent last week. It's the Raiders, but still, they look more themselves.
Mediocre teams have won playoff games. It can't happen.
But that's true. But as the years have gone by, teams with mediocre quarterback play don't win a lot of playoff games.
No.
They win some, but not a lot.
That's why you talk about Kirk Cousins and Tannehill in the same vein.
Right.
And you talk about Burrow and Mahomes.
I think Cousins is better
See,
than
now, to
Tannehill.
me, Cousins and Tannehill are not the same.
No, but what has Cousins done?
Now, Cousins has been bad in the playoffs.
And that's my point.
But Cousins in the regular season has been a borderline top 10 quarterback.
He's been terrific. He's been a top 10 quarterback.
He's a great fantasy quarterback.
He's a great fantasy quarterback because fantasy doesn't carry over to the postseason.
That's right.
And neither does he.
But but he's a quarterback that if he had one big playoff run and got to the Super Bowl, you'd look at him differently.
He could change minds.
You look at him differently.
Well, look at Eli Manning. How we look at Eli Manning.
Right. Yes.
He won playoff games in 2 seasons.
That's it.
It just so happened to be that he won all of them in those
right,
seasons
right.
and the MVP in the Super Bowl.
And
look how we judge him.
Yeah.
Without those 2 Super Bowl runs, he is probably Kirk Cousins.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Kirk Cousins had way better regular season stats than Eli, though.
He did. Absolutely he does.
But the game has continued to go more and more pass heavy.
Right, it's throw heavy.
Even since Eli
more so than
played.
ever before.
Yeah.
We got to get some super chats in before we head over to WKYC. You can also watch in the WKYC app if you're not in the Cleveland market. So download the Channel 3 WKYC app, and you could watch 30 minutes of brand new Browns-Titans content that we will be doing on Channel 3 here in about 9 minutes. But we got some super chats to read first, and whenever we read you super chats, it's brought to us by our dear friends at PCC Airfoils. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, well, PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. We got 4 super chats, guys, and we're going to get through these as we need to. The first one comes from Devoid Archangel. How long until we call Deshaun Watson Franmil?
Oh, Franmil.
As in
Reyes? Franmil Reyes? I'm guessing that's
the only Franmil I've ever heard.
I don't understand the comparison.
I don't either. We'll move on.
Really
Next one from Bill Rodewalt. Browns had the number 2 defense in terms of yards per game and the number 7 offense in yards per game. Watson had 8 of 10 passes on target that weren't caught. Watson has a big game. Browns win big on Sunday.
Wait, he's saying the Browns have the 7th rated offense?
In terms of yards per game, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
That's like the win-loss record for a pitcher. Doesn't mean much.
Next one. This is a question from Simple. If the season does go to crap and Stefanski gets fired, would you want to see Jim Schwartz as the next head coach and bring in an offensive coordinator, or would you want Watson to have his choice of the next head coach?
Neither.
It's a good question. I've got an interesting answer to that. Do you guys want to go?
My answer is neither. I don't want Jim Schwartz. I don't want him as the head coach.
Yeah.
I want him to be the defensive coordinator. That's what he's great at.
Yeah.
I don't know who I want as the head coach, but I don't want my quarterback picking the coach.
Good Lord, no.
I mean, I'd want them to meet and be on the same page, but I don't want my quarterback picking the coach. No.
Not picking the coach, but I think he would have a say in who the next coordinator is, offensive coordinator.
And that makes sense. He should.
That's
here's what, if they move on, here's my fantasy world.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Jim Schwartz is the defensive coordinator, period.
Yeah.
The one mistake that the league makes, and society makes this mistake, they always assume, well, you're good at one thing, so you're going to be great at the next thing.
That's right.
Look at the number of coaches that have come from the coordinator ranks that have flamed out infamously.
Yeah.
Just couldn't do it. It's not for everybody. It really isn't. No. I think Kevin Stefanski, in his 1 year as an offensive coordinator in Minnesota, was pretty damn good. I think as a head coach, he's been pretty damn mediocre. I think Schwartz, we've seen him as a head coach.
Yeah.
He wasn't it.
But
to
you
your
did
point,
talk about
sometimes-
experience the second time. But
Yes. Now, if that move happens in the middle of the season, he's the interim coach.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's part of the reason he was brought in.
Right.
But if you're going to just scrub the decks and start all new next year, I'm going with an offensive coordinator that calls plays, that has previous experience. I'm going with Schwartz as my defensive coordinator, and I'm going with my head coach who is the CEO of the program. He's going to run the whole thing, but he's not going to be calling plays.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Again, most of the coaches call plays now.
I'd go
Many
with
of them
Mike
do.
Vrabel if I had my pick. It's just me.
If that's possible, that would definitely be a popular move here in Cleveland. Last super chat before we head out. Oh, we have one more that just got dropped. But Rob Lother says, if the Browns release Kevin midseason, do you think Schwartz is his intern replacement?
Just answer that question.
Yeah. Does everybody think
Yeah.
that? I mean, I said I don't even think it's.
I think there's a chance it's Bubba.
I think special teams, and I love Bubba, but I think special teams have underperformed this year.
They have.
Well, DPJ lost him in the lights. They lost those punts in the lights.
But it might.
I think he lost
Isn't it
in the
more
lights.
for the reason so Schwartz can continue to just focus on the defense?
Yeah. Odds-on favorite is probably Schwartz. I just
Couldn't
wouldn't discount
couldn't
Bubba.
it be
AVP?
No. Oh my God. I just forgot his name.
Well, AVP
Callahan. Couldn't it just be Callahan?
No, I don't think so.
He was a previous head coach.
Yeah, but I don't think he would want that. I don't think. He
But
would
just
even want
interim, it might be best for the team. If
it. I don't think he would want it.
Yeah.
He's got a nice, cushy position where he is.
I think being the interim, I think that'd be best for the team because then the coordinators could stay where they are and Van Pelt would call the plays. But hopefully it doesn't come to this.
Yeah.
And we have one more real quick, and we have 1 minute before we have to transition.
What's our out time,
to
27?
WKYC. 27.
Okay.
Set apart Laz says in all caps, I don't know if y'all know, but you talked against the Browns all day today.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can we start the show over?
What does that mean? We talked against the Browns.
Wait, we need to.
What does that even
can't,
mean?
We can't do that.
I don't even understand what that means. What does that
There's
mean
been
against
negative
the
Browns talk. How dare us?
I
How
don't even-
dare us?
But I don't even accept that we've had negative Browns talk. We've talked about our concerns. I don't find that negative.
No, some of what we've discussed has been negative.
Yeah.
We've also pointed out some positives.
I mean,
Talked about how good their defense
I don't know
is.
what to say.
But look, if you're coming to this program expecting all of us to be holding orange and brown pom-poms and to hide the obvious and talk about only positives and how good you are, how good they are, you're at the wrong place.
If you want,
we're going to give it to you the way we see it.
If you want cheerleaders, go watch the Cleveland Browns daily radio show.
Watch state-run media.
They're cheerleaders.
It's state-run media. You
We're
expect
telling
them
you
to
our
be.
honest opinions.
Bye. Go to Channel 3.
See you at Channel 3 for the most important 30 minutes of UCSS every week.